This new accessory for your Series S is going to change family road trips forever. Game Pass is losing some pretty big games, but it's gaining some interesting ones, and even a PlayStation game? My giveaway is also live. I have a link down in the description below with instructions on how you can win your very own Series X from me. Let's discuss. So as we all know, Game Pass is really, really cool. As we also know, Game Pass giveth and it taketh away. That's right, Xbox adds titles to the service every month, but also by the 15th of every month, we lose about 4 or 5 games as well. And this month, there are some pretty good games leaving the service, and here are some that I think you should check out before they leave. So first up is Final Fantasy XII. Now, I haven't played the remastered version of this that's on Game Pass, but I did play it when it came out on the PlayStation 2 in the mid-2000s. Now, some people will say that it's a more controversial entry in the Final Fantasy franchise, but I really enjoyed it back in the day, and it really felt to me like a return to the Final Fantasy games I knew growing up and that I had played previously. I was coming fresh off of playing Final Fantasy XII, which there were times when the battle system was really, really awesome. But other than that, I was like, man, the story's like kind of whack. This kind of seems like just heavy Final Fantasy fan service. Overall, I just wish the story ended at Final Fantasy X. I didn't really need whatever that Final Fantasy X-2 was trying to bring to the table. Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age, had the Gambit system, which is you could basically program your characters to do certain actions under certain circumstances, like drink a potion when you're at a certain amount of health, or attack when certain circumstances were being fulfilled. The story was also a bit more realistic. It wasn't as fantastical. This is something that more so applies to Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X was like, there was time travel, and you were fighting these otherworldly monsters with sin and the fiends, and there was travel between the plane of the dead and characters traveling back and forth from the far plane. It was crazy, and this is more like a more realistic political intrigue plot. But I will say, I thought the story was decent, but it was paced terribly. The pacing was awful. It does feel weird whenever we see a Final Fantasy game leave Game Pass in wake of this news that Square Enix is kind of teaming up with Sony and PlayStation in a way. It's like, oh, these Final Fantasy games, when they leave Game Pass, like, are they ever going to come back? I'm not sure. So it is sad to see. Another game I would recommend checking out is Code Vein. Now, when this came out, it was billed as Dark Souls, but anime. And I would say that's pretty accurate. It is an action RPG game that has a horror anime theme. So the game is about 30 hours long, give or take, and it takes place in this post-apocalyptic setting that's overrun with these revenant creature guys, and the humans that are left behind are basically, they give away their memories and they buy into this bloodlust of theirs in order to increase their powers and survive in this world. Overall, I thought it was a pretty solid game. The combat was sufficiently Dark Souls-esque, and I especially appreciated that they gave you a little companion that either made the game easy or was just so frustrating at points. It's also been huge in the anime community for the past couple of years because the character creation system is so robust that people were making like exact copies of really popular anime characters in the game. Now, if you can only find time to play one of these games that are leaving in February, I highly recommend that you play Control. A playthrough of the game will only roughly take like 10, 12 hours maybe, so it's not going to eat up a ton of your time, and really I just think this is awesome. It was made by Remedy Games, who made Alan Wake, who made the first couple Max Payne games, and the story, it kind of starts out in this weird corporate setting, and it quickly just evolves into something else completely as you're fighting these interdimensional beings known as the Hiss. The setting is the Federal Bureau of Control, which is actually an organization that exists in the Alan Wake universe. They are connected in that way. It came out before this, but it has very strong TVA Loki vibes if you've watched Loki on Disney+. I thought the storytelling was overall pretty strong, and I enjoyed the different characters that you encounter through your playthrough, and the combat was pretty fun as well. It's a third-person shooter, and you also have these really awesome psychic abilities as well, and you also have a shape-shifting gun, so that's pretty cool. Long story short, Remedy just makes good games. The games that I mentioned, they have a good track record. It speaks for itself. Now, it's a bummer that these games are leaving Game Pass, but depending on how you look at it, it might be a little bit of a blessing because February is jam-packed with new game releases. It's crazy. You got Dying Light 2, you got Sifu, you got Horizon Forbidden West, Pokemon Arceus just came out, you got Saints Row, you got Elden Ring coming in at the end of the month on the 25th. There's just so many games. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know if I'll have time to play them all, truly. On top of that, we're also getting more games on Game Pass, obviously, and there are some pretty interesting ones. Contrast is coming out on February 3rd, and this game, from my understanding, is a little bit older. It came out in 2013, but when I watched the trailer, I was instantly hooked. It's kind of set in this series of unfortunate events, BioShock Infinite type place, and it's a platformer that alternates between the three-dimensional real world and a two-dimensional shadow world. And I also checked out some of the music for this game, and it was really, really awesome, so I'm definitely going to be playing this when it's added to Game Pass. Telling Lies is also coming around that same time frame as Contrast, and it's made by Annapurna Interactive, which I have a love-hate relationship with. You know, Outer Wilds? Yes, awesome. 12 Minutes? No, not very awesome. Artful Escape? Sort of awesome. Yeah, I have an up and down relationship with them, and this game seems to be one of those games that is more like an interactive movie than a traditional video game. You have these different scenes filmed by these, various actors, and you have to, from my understanding, discern whether or not they're telling lies or telling the truth. Just by looking at it, I can tell it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but it might be fun to play through on a stream or with a friend or something like that. Ark is also coming later this month. Now, if you do not know what Ark is a survival crafting game where you're dropped on this island and you have to survive and craft all your own stuff, including your house, and protect yourself against players if you're in a public server, and dinosaurs. That's the big twist on this. Dinosaurs. You can tame dinosaurs, you can fight dinosaurs. But Ray, Ark Survival Evolved is already on Game Pass. It's been on Game Pass for forever. You can even play it on cloud gaming. But, my dear viewer, this is the Ultimate Survivor edition of Ark, which includes the base game and all of the expansions that they've released so far. They have the Genesis Season Pass, they have Scorched Earth, they have Aberration, they have Extinction, they have it all, which is a lot of content if you're into games like this. Crossfire X is also going to be coming in mid-February, and I feel like people are sleeping on this game, including me. The OG Crossfire was made by a South Korean studio called Smilegate, and it was huge in the Eastern video game market. Like, I'm talking 670 million registered users. Huge. So Smilegate returned to do the multiplayer portion of Crossfire X, and it's supposed to be more like Counter-Strike in terms of its feel. But get this, the single-player parts of this game were made by Remedy Entertainment. Yes, the Remedy that we were just talking about, Alan Wake, Max Payne, Control, that Remedy. The fact that they worked on this game, the single-player portion that is enough for me to want to check this out. I was just talking about this with someone on Twitter, how we miss kind of the old-school single-player shooter experiences. I'm talking like the old Splinter Cell games, Ghost Recon, the old Rainbow Six games, and this seems like it could have a similar vibe to those games. Now, the distribution for this game is a little bit convoluted, which has me slightly concerned. So the Smilegate multiplayer portion is going to be free to play, apparently, and separate from the single player stuff, much like Halo Infinite was. In the single player stuff, there's two campaigns: Operation Catalyst, which is the one that will come with Game Pass if you download it on Game Pass, and Operation Spectre, which is something you're going to have to pay for separately if you want to experience. This has also led them to offer multiple tiers like Crossfire X Ultimate Edition. It comes with everything. Those things are they're always confusing, right? MLB The Show 2022 is going to be coming to Game Pass day one on April 5th. Now, for those of you who do not know, MLB The Show is a series that is best known for being internally developed by Sony, and for years it was exclusive to PlayStation consoles. I'm talking about for like 8 years. There was not an MLB-related baseball game on Xbox since they canceled the MLB 2K series. Now, that all changed, however, last year when there was this huge landmark deal, as some people call it, brokered by the MLB themselves to bring these games to multiple platforms. This led for MLB The Show 2021 to come to Xbox as well as PlayStation, and everyone rejoiced, yay! And the people who were distributing it were especially happy because it became the 9th best-selling game of 2021. Now, I'm not a huge baseball guy in general, and I've only ever played a handful of baseball games. 2 of those were via Wii Sports and Mario Party, so I can't really speak to the hype of this addition to Game Pass, and I can't speak to the overall experience that MLB The Show offers, but I do think it's cool that Game Pass has provided the opportunity for people to experience all of the major sports games like Madden 2020, Madden 2021, NBA 2K21, even though NBA 2K21, that was only on Game Pass for a couple months, but still, there was an opportunity for players to experience all the major sports games. MLB The Show 2022 is also going to be coming to Nintendo Switch consoles, which is a pretty big win for my Nintendo brothers out there. This next product is something that you've probably seen floating around the internet if you are a fan of gaming, a fan of Xbox. It is a product that is made by an Australian-based company, UpSpec, and they call it the XScreen, and it's basically a monitor. It's 11.6-inch 1080p 60 FPS monitor that you plug right onto your Series S and make it a semi-portable Xbox gaming machine thing. Now, UpSpec started a Kickstarter campaign for this product back in July of last year, and according to legend, they blew past their goal in a mere 20 minutes. Now, that goal was not very huge, it was only $10,000, but still pretty impressive. In a recent update, they confirmed that everything was good to go and they were ready to start shipping out the first units to their Kickstarter backers on February 25th. Now, to me, this is genius. Build-wise, this thing is really, really cool. It fits seamlessly into your Xbox Series S console, and it really doesn't even make it that much bigger. You know, the Series S, as small as it is, and this really kind of keeps that compact size. It really just looks like a regular size textbook, medium sized textbook, if you will. And the fact that the screen doesn't need a separate power source basically puts it on par with a low-end gaming laptop. You know, honestly, it's probably better because there's not going to be a fan issue, right? It has a little bit more space than you would find in a typical laptop, so ventilation is probably a lot better. It's also pretty awesome that all it takes is one single power cable. You plug it into the back and it has pass-through power that allows you to power both the console and the screen. And that's beautiful to me. You know, I have all this awesome tech that I'm starting to accumulate, but with that comes cable management issues. And there's just so much to keep track of, like all the power cables, all the HDMI cables, all the stuff plugged in for my lights, all the stuff for this mic to plug in, and, you know, by extension, the audio interface. It's a lot to keep track of. All my ring lights that are currently lighting me up right now. There's something beautiful about just, you know, having something plugging in, and that's it, just one cord. It also further proves that there are a lot of people out there that want a portable Xbox thing, whether it be a console, whether it be a handheld device, something like that. And Microsoft, it's kind of like, well, why would they bother making a console or a handheld device when people are pretty much doing it for them, for your phones, for your Xbox Series S? This is also another accessory that would blow my mind if I saw this as a kid. It would basically make family road trips elite. Back in my day, all we had in a road trip situation was a crappy portable DVD player. The screen was like this big, and eventually, you know, I got a Game Boy Color, which had no backlight, by the way, for those of you who do not remember, literally playing the game by the light of the passing street lights as you're riding in the car. So this would have blown my freaking mind. Now, the Kickstarter backers are getting a little bit of a discount on this. They're getting this for $220 versus everyone else, when it's officially launched, is going to be paying $250 for it. Now, this might be raising some eyebrows to some people, especially if you've bought a monitor in the past couple of years. Obviously, you can for just a little bit of extra money, buy a nicer monitor than what the screen is. You know, like the one behind me, the Tough Gaming Asus. It's only like, I think like maybe $50 to $100 more than this XScreen. And at $250, it's only slightly cheaper than the console itself. And together with the screen and the Series S, it puts it on par with what you would pay almost for an Xbox Series X. But I feel like what you're paying for in this specific situation is the utility and all the practical uses that it can bring. I feel like this is priced pretty fairly. If your kid is watching Encanto for the millionth time, you can still play your game, just pop the sucker open, sit back on the couch, and enjoy. It's also super mobile if you want to take it from room to room, if you want to pack it up with you and take it somewhere else, and that's just not something that you can do with the other consoles. Even moving my Series X, the thought of moving into my living room, which is only like 20 feet that way, like it just feels so tedious compared to something like this. In the product video, they also do a really good job of how this could be valuable for kids. And for me, I think it'd be awesome if I could throw this in my backpack, bring it over to my friend's house for a sleepover, especially nowadays, because so many of these multiplayer games, they're not split screen anymore. You need an entirely different console, entirely different screen to play co-op. Overall, I think it's a really good idea. And hopefully when they launch, I'll be able to grab one to showcase on my channel. Anyway, guys, that's all the news I have for today. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Ray. I would very much appreciate it if you went on over to Twitter and followed me at StayXboxReady. That's hands down the best way to get in touch with me if you have any questions regarding what you see on the channel, or you just want to talk gaming. My giveaway is also live. I have a link down in the description below with instructions on how you can win your very own Series X from me. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.